So the story of Moses and the Israelites' exodus from Egypt was one of the most foundational stories to Judaism and to Christianity. The enslavement of the Israelites in Egypt, the miraculous plagues, the confrontation between the Hebrew prophet Moses and Pharaoh, and the dramatic escape through the Red Sea are all huge historical events. However, in Egypt, there's no inscription, no court chronicle, no tomb painting detailing the plagues, the loss of slave labor, or the crippling blow to Pharaoh's divine authority. Nothing in the Egyptian historical account. So what's the deal here? Did these things really happen? Were the Egyptians biased in their history? And what does the Bible have to say? Let's take a look.
Attention, bargain shoppers.
So why doesn't the Exodus story fit with what we know of Egyptian historical records? Well, there are actually a couple of answers to this. So the first has to do with the ancient Egyptians' reason for maintaining their records. The ancient Egyptian records were not just meant to be neutral history, something unbiased that historians could look back upon. Instead, they were an act of religious affirmation, aimed at maintaining cosmic and political stability. This was called the Mu'at, and it comprised the ancient Egyptians' concepts of truth, balance, order, harmony, laws, morality, and justice. The Mu'at represented an ethical and moral principle that all Egyptians were expected to follow throughout their daily lives. Their concept of holiness was tied to harmony and order, which was at odds with chaos and disorder. And they believed that cosmic harmony was achieved by correct public and ritualistic life. Any disturbance in this harmony could have severe consequences for both the person and the state. So then you've got Pharaoh, who's responsible for upholding this mu'at. And everything he did was designed to do this. From his military campaigns to his building projects. All of his actions were aimed at upholding this system of morality, of cosmic balance. A defeat or a crisis or a substantial failure, such as the decimation of your land by plagues, the loss of thousands of slaves, or the drowning of your entire elite military force. This would not have been merely a political setback. Acknowledging this, recording it in history, would have been theologically catastrophic. And we do know that the Egyptians had a practice of deliberately erasing any people or events from history that didn't fit within their framework of morality, of harmony. Because if they did acknowledge them, it would give them power in the afterlife. So they did have a practice of just erasing events and people from history that didn't fit their narrative. So one example of this was the pharaoh Akhenaten. Egyptians went to great lengths to erase his memory from history. And they did this because he was somebody who challenged their religious order. So you gotta think, how much more motivated would they be to erase an event from history where a foreign slave god utterly humiliated and defeated the Egyptian army, and subsequently the Egyptian gods, since Pharaoh was seen as divine. But from a biblical standpoint, the entire Exodus narrative is structured around this conflict between Yahweh and foreign gods, and the Yahweh God demonstrating his power over the foreign gods. So we know that God sent plagues to Egypt, and each one of these plagues was actually meant to attack a specific god. For example, in Exodus 7:17 we see, "This is what the Lord says, by this you will know that I am the Lord. With the staff that is in my hand, I will strike the water of the Nile, and it will be changed into blood." So here Yahweh is attacking Hapi, the god of the Nile, and Khnum, the guardian of the Nile. And similarly, we see in Exodus 9:16, "And the next day the Lord did it. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites died." So here Yahweh is attacking Apis, who's the bull god in Egypt, and Hathor, the cow goddess. And so all these plagues were very symbolic and targeted a specific Egyptian god, culminating culminating in the final plague which breaks Pharaoh's will. This is the death of the firstborn, a direct assault on Pharaoh's divine status and the continuity of his royal line. And you got to look at the theological purpose of Exodus. This was not meant to leave a verifiable record for archaeologists to mull over. It was to establish Yahweh's reputation amongst the nations. In Exodus 9:16 we're told, "But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth." And that's exactly what happened. The Canaanites and the surrounding nations, they all heard of these events which we're still talking about today. So the victory of Yahweh and the Israelites was the exact type of event that the Egyptians would have erased from their history books. It's exactly the type of thing that Egyptian religious dogma would have suppressed. So in this way, the absence of Moses' name from their history books is almost a testament to his success. But what do you think? Why do you think that the Egyptian historical account doesn't acknowledge Moses or the Israelites? I'd love to hear your thoughts, but also feel free to like and subscribe. It does help out the channel. I'll leave the verses used today in the description. My name is Adam. This is Bargain Bin Theology, and remember, you get what you pay for.